When people think of the 19th century, they think of romantic music, and they have a romantic ideal of the 19th century, and they believe that people like Chopin and Schumann and Liszt and Verdi and Brahms, they fell out of the sky, geniuses, no training. But what you're saying is they had a lineage of training. Let's take Bellini, for instance. Can you talk about him? Was he a Neapolitan-trained musician?
Yeah, I would talk about Bellini with great pleasure. Actually, he's one of my favorite composers. It's something very, very important and very right. We still have this legacy in the musicological literature sometimes of this romantic idea of spontaneous genius regarding the music production in the 19th century. So is still strong with a general overlook regarding the importance of the training and the study, the sketch, the autograph manuscripts, the sources, the studies that these composers actually they had, the essential importance of their training. So Bellini was born in Sicily, but following the great, of course, influence or the importance of the Neapolitan school that was famous in all peninsula, he was sent to study in Naples, and he could study with the great masters at the beginning of the 19th century, such as Giacomo Tritto and Zingarelli. He could study Partimento, counterpoint, following the Neapolitan methods and the art of solfeggio, of course.
Those names you just mentioned, they're very, very important names, right? Those teachers.
Absolutely. They were amongst the great Neapolitan masters of the time. And Bellini could study a lot and had very great training for years with the Partimento, with this great art of composition and pedagogic method, who formed the base of his work and, of course, of his composition activity that today is well known, the production operas such as Norma, I Puritani, and so on. So, of course, he was a genius, as well as other operatic composers such as Donizetti or Rossini, but the importance of the training that they had that allowed them to compose sometimes in few weeks great masterpieces that we know today is something that it must be considered. Bellini, for example, is one of these composers of the golden age, of course, of the Italian opera, but I mentioned also Donizetti, Rossini, and of course Verdi, and so on. In my research, I recently published an article and had occasion to speak about the importance of Partimento composition and practice Bellini's operas, to underline actually the link and the use of the Partimento pattern in some of Bellini works. For example, Norma or I Puritani, some musical passages, because my idea was also to consider the training, consider the sources and this legacy, but also to consider why and how an operatic composer, for example, might have chosen this pattern in his musical creations. What I mean is the Partimento edition could also be a very interesting instrument for the 19th century music analysis.